Okay. Okay, we're going to call to order and welcome everyone to our special council meeting Friday, August 20th, 2021 at 1 p.m. So first order of business is to adopt the agenda. That would be motion 2021-08/20-105 that the agenda be adopted as presented. Do we have a mover?
So move.
Can we get council member to second the motion? On the question, do we have any additions or deletions? Okay. On the question? All those in favor of the motion say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passed unanimously. Down to statements of conflict of interest. Do we have anyone who needs to acknowledge a conflict of interest this afternoon? No one? Okay. So no one acknowledges a conflict of interest. That means that we can get to 4.1, which is the tender number 242-19-1, which is the Rustica Street extension. Well, this is an award. We had a note there that you can see in terms of the number of sources that will be involved in funding of the project. You have some of the information below that was given. This one is an older file. We've been working on this one for the better part of this council's tenure and some of the previous ones. So council should be relatively up to date on the information related to this motion. So without further delay, the motion, which is 2021-18-20-106, that the tender number 242, will actually ask for a mover. I'll ask for a mover who can read. Okay, so we'll go ahead, council member. Okay, thank you. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Carmichael. On the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passed 4-0, I believe. Might also get in the habit of I think some of the council members would appreciate if we just also named who was in favor and who was not. So Councillor Guitar-McDonnell, Councillor Carrier, Councillor Berg, and Councillor Carmichael in favor. No one opposed. Okay, thank you. The next one is the portion of Shannon Drive transfer. This one was also an older file. This goes back to the last council. Remember, I was on council when we had this discussion. You're probably all familiar geographically with where this is. And just for the record, because it had been dealt with before and we're talking about it today, maybe I can get Clerk Treasurer Cormier just to explain again why we're dealing with this again today.
Okay, the file goes back to about 2017, where the Belleville Port Authority was interested in a portion of Shannon Drive, which I guess would have more relevance to their use than any public use. So the council adopted a bylaw to stop up a portion of that road. They did it in consultation with their legal. But since 2017, the transfer of the property didn't take place yet. So now in order to transfer that property over to the Belleville Port Authority, it will require a motion of council, and then our legal counsel will complete the file and do the transfer of the property.
Okay, thank you. So again, just so some people might have been wondering if they followed the past council and thought this was sort of finished business. It wasn't totally finished business, and that's why it's back on the docket today. So we have a motion that is related to the Shannon Drive transfer. Could I get a mover, please?
So moved. Motion 2021-08-20-107, that the following resolution regarding property transfer be approved. Whereas council stopped up and closed a portion of Shannon Drive by bylaw 2017-01, be it resolved that council authorize the transfer of land to the Belledune Port Authority for $1 and authorize its signing officers to sign and seal all relevant documents.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor Burke. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Carmichael. On the question? Okay, we'll get to the vote then. So those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All those opposed, say nay. The vote passed 4-0. Councillor Guitar-McDonnell, Councillor Carrier, Deputy Mayor Burke, Councillor Carmichael, all support the motion. Thank you. So we move down to the next one, and this is obviously the newest one. And this one we sort of dealt with very quickly this week, though it has a bit of a history too. It's a subdivision plan, lot 2021-1, and it's for approval. This is the property that Chaleur Forest Products Limited requested to purchase. And there was an attached letter of offer and the property appraisal, which was presented at the July 19th meeting. So if anyone has any questions, we'll wait till I ask a question on that, if anybody has any newer responses or any questions on that. So we'll just get to the motion and see if we have a mover for that motion.
So moved. Motion 2021-08-20-109, that the agreement of purchase and sale between Chaleur Forest Products, wrong, sorry. Gotta go up then. Okay, yeah. 108, okay, the motion 2021-08-20-108, that the subdivision plan, Village of Belledune subdivision 2021 for the creation of lot 2021-1 be approved.
Okay, okay, second, moved by Deputy Mayor Burke, seconded by Councillor Carmichael. Any questions? Councillor Carrier?
Yes, so as it appears on the map that was provided to us, there's a section of land that butts up between the piece of land in question and the edge of Restiger Street. And I'm looking for clarification to be sure that if other industries move in and purchase the land that's on the other side of AJN, if they will have use of the spur line, if that strip of property will be adequate enough for other companies to be able to use that if need be.
My current understanding is that it is, that it would be. I don't see anything in the documents that I've read that eliminates anyone from being able to use it because of the current geographical makeup of the property. So my understanding is without it being implicitly included in any contract, that it would be virtually impossible for anyone to deny anyone else usage if they were buying that property. I'm not a legal advisor, but that is my current understanding. It's a good question. But that's my understanding, and I sort of had that question myself, and my understanding was that if something is not implicitly included in a legal agreement, then it's not, legally binding. But,
Just to make sure that you're understanding though, like there's a separate parcel of land. That's, oh, okay. Yeah, because so that's not being purchased. That would be owned by the village? Is that correct?
so my impression that it was, Councillor, or Clerk Treasurer Cormier, do you have any other information?
Unfortunately not, because I wasn't involved in this file until the last couple of days, so.
My understanding, oh, go ahead. CEO Ferguson.
Yeah, the adjacent property to the property that's right there, is my understanding that that's owned by the village right now, as part of the industrial park. Right. So it's, and as far as what you're talking about, Councilor Carrier, I'm pretty sure, not 100% sure, but I will check to make sure that it is, but I can't see them not keeping the same amount of land, but the spur line ends at that point anyway. So, but maybe if they wanted to extend it or whatever, but.
That would be my only concern.
Yes.
I have no issues with Shalor Sawmill purchasing the property. My issue,
Is for future development.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and I believe that perhaps, I mean, I'll get back to you as quick as I can on that. I'll find out on Monday morning, but I don't think that I can't say like I'm not a legal advisor either, but I certainly will check into it.
So worst case scenario, if we find out that that strip of land is not large enough or is there another way for future industry to be able to access or tap into that somehow?
My quick answer to that would be yes. I think that, that we would be able to provide access. I also, in the conversations I had with the management of Shiller Sawmills is that generally they're quite agreeable with, managing access. And it seems to be something access is something that keeps reappearing in some of the motions that we're dealing with. And so far, it seems like there's general agreement between that no one is sort of monopolizing any of the access. But again, as CEO Ferguson said, it's probably something that we would need to get a legal answer to that I couldn't provide to you right now. But my general understanding is that there would be access to the spur line. That's my understanding, and that we would be able to provide it, because I don't see anything that does not allow us to provide access to it.
I think if you went, if I may, Your Worship, if you went into, on Restigouche Drive, and you look at that access to that spur line, by the time you calculate what Shallor Sawmill, Shallor Forest Products has purchased, they probably have all the frontage used up. That spur line probably doesn't, access to loading probably is limited to the next property. But I do agree in the sense of saying that there's nothing stopping the property from let's say clearing a spot to be able to access the spur line. But that spur, like the accessibility to loading onto that spur line, it's not all that big. I mean, the piece of property that Shallor Forest Products are purchasing is going to take up 500, 600 feet. And that spur line isn't much longer than that. It's not like it's all the way up to the curve there. It's only so long. So
My understanding from the conversations that I had was that we weren't, that there wouldn't, access would not be, like we would be in a position where we would not have our access denied. So if that's a piece of property that we are selling and another entity is taking over, then they should then probably we'd be able to transfer the right to access to them. That was my understanding, and I think that's where we are.
also just a comment on that, the present agreement states that the Shallor Forest Products and AJN will share the cost of the spur line. I can't see them being objecting to say if another user went in there and wanted access to the spur line where they would be picking up, let's say, instead of If you're talking half and half between two, you'd be talking a third between three. So the cost would be going down for the other two if a new supplier came in, so I don't see that being a problem.
Yeah, you know what, that's a relatively common occurrence where you have owners of different properties trying to access common, whether it's common roads, common access to property, common access to main highways, common access to railway lines. So I think in most cases, most of the businesses, and I would probably agree with you, if they have someone who's actually willing to incur another portion of the cost, are usually pretty agreeable with doing that, right? So it's a good question. And I'm not sure, I couldn't say 100%, but I'd be comfortable with making this transaction with the understanding that I don't think we would be stuck with a piece of property that we couldn't sell because we didn't have access. That would be my feeling, but.
Well, that's what I'd like to see, because it's not only, okay, so once a company purchases that land and sets up shop, and they go to Schiller Sawmills and they go to AJN and they say, hey, we'd like use, that's one thing, but us as a village trying to promote our village and get businesses to come in here, I think it's a strike against us if we say, yeah, we have this land and yeah, we have this spur line, but oh, by the way, you're gonna have to go talk to them to see if you can use it. So if we could put a clause of some sort in there that says, because wasn't that piece of property originally kept for that purpose?
Yes, I mean, well, you mean the property that you're describing?
No, the property that they're looking to purchase.
Yes, well, my understanding was, but I'm not 100, I wasn't involved in that would be a sort of an internal conversation. But I would probably say you're probably right.
And would it be, or has it been already discussed with Schiller Sawmills that they could use it as would any other company that would come in, like use it and do as you will, but we would keep ownership to be able to provide that access, or is that not something that was discussed?
Not sure it was specifically, but I mean, the general sense I got from Mr. Woods is that they're pretty cooperative. They seem, in the conversation they have, even as late as Wednesday night, because there were a couple of issues even going into Wednesday, and they were very, they were very amenable to some of the ideas that we put forward, and said, listen, we were a little bit hesitant about this, and we wanted some cooperation on that. And the general sense I got from them, absolutely. So they seem to be a good corporate citizen. And, sometimes you have to make a leap of faith with it. I don't think this is necessarily a leap of faith, because I think we are covered legally. But even if we weren't, if it came down to, would I feel comfortable passing this transaction with the idea that if we talk to them afterward, that they would be open to making sure that that property, whoever had that property, had access, I would be. I'm not sure how other council members would be. But so I guess the question is then to this motion, is whether or not council members are comfortable with the current motion, or whether they'd wish to not pass it and go back and make sure that we have something more legally binding, which we may already have. That's the only thing. I'm not sure we know whether or not we actually have it. There doesn't seem to be anybody at the table to be able to mention that. I wouldn't want to say for sure, but I'm quite satisfied that, and another thing too is it wasn't something that our legal brought to the table. So he may have flagged that if he was uncomfortable with it.
Are Schiller Forest Products in a bind, I guess, if we do not pass this motion today?
Yeah, it's I don't like to use the word time sensitive, but in the conversations that I've had the last couple of days, and remember, there are these things tend to domino, right? All these motions are tied together.
So then I will propose an amendment to the motion that reads that provided Schiller Forest Products have no objection to us utilizing access to the spur line, should we sell that property?
Well, can we do the original motion first?
Well, we'd have to amend it first.
Okay. The only thing, if you amend it, you're walking away, personally, I don't feel comfortable with the amendment. Only because we're going back, if we go back and we say to Shore, you know, now we've amended this, you're opening up a whole another week perhaps of negotiations. So I would ask you to reconsider that. I'm not telling you what to do. You can go forward with what you want. But I would say, let's take a vote on this motion. If it goes through, we can talk to them afterward.
Maybe I'll ask Clerk Treasurer Cormier for a little clarification on that.
I think you're kind of mixing the two motions right now. This one here, like I said, even though it impacts it, this is about the subdivision of the property, the lot. As far as an amendment to add a condition, that would have to be added into the purchase and sale one, which is coming after, because you can't do an amendment on the subdivision part of it. Like, because I said, it's a motion to create that lot. So the amendment would be more in terms of the other one coming up.
If council members aren't happy with aren't satisfied with the motion, just vote against it.
No, I believe that, you know, at the end of the day, we are trying to demonstrate that we are here to work with the people who are in our community. You know, there comes a point in time when you do have to show a little bit of faith and a little bit of trust. So in all honesty, I do not have an issue approving or voting in favor of the motion as it stands so that it'll have a chance to go through, and then deal with Chaleur Forest Products after, just to make sure that we have accessibility to the spur line.
Yeah, and that may not be much of an issue at all. I don't think
Yeah,
it is personally. But, so can we move on with the original motion?
Yeah.
And then we'll see how councils feel about it. So that everybody's on the understanding here. We're dealing with the original motion, whether or not we pass this motion as is, and go back and speak with, I'll go back, or I'll have Scott, or right now, we'll go back as a team to go back and talk with them and see if we can't get this issue settled. Okay?
Yeah.
So that will be dealt with. So we're gonna vote on the original issue, and it's a point that was well brought up, so, I appreciate that. So let's get back to the motion of 2021-08-20-108. That was the motion, so we have a mover, Deputy Mayor Burke moved it. Councilor Carmichael seconded the motion. So, vote on the motion then. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Okay. So we have a 4-0, or do we have a 3-1? A 4-0? Okay, so that's Councilor Guitar-McDonnell, Councilor Carrier, Councilor Deputy Mayor Burke, Councilor Carmichael. And I'd ask CEO Ferguson if you get in touch with Schler Sawmills today and mention that we have some concerns about the access to the spur line, and we'll get that taken care of.
And can you also make sure that when you check into that it's in there that if Shore Sawmill sells to somebody else, that access goes with it?
Okay. Yeah, okay, that's good. Okay, we have one more. And that is motion 2021-08-20-109. Again, we're back, this time it's the agreement of purchase and sale between Chaleur Forest Products, GP Inc., and the Village of Beldoon for property identified as PID 206-28897. Can we have a mover? Yeah.
So moved. Motion M 2021-08-20-109, that the agreement of purchase and sale between Chaleur Forest Products GP Inc. and the Village of Beldoon for property identified as PID 206-28897 be accepted and council authorize its signing officers to sign and seal all relevant documents.
Okay. Yeah. A motion by Deputy Mayor Burke, seconded by Councillor Carmichael. On the question. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Okay, so we have 4, Councillor Guitart-Macdonald, Councillor Carrier, Deputy Mayor Burke, Councillor Carmichael. And do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Motion 2021-08-20-110, that the meeting adjourn at 1:34 PM.
Do we have a seconder? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All those opposed, say nay. Okay, passed. Thank you, council. And thank you, everyone, for